Out of nowhere, Overwatch 2 just came out with the biggest patch. Like, I didn't even expect this. Like, this feels like Overwatch 3. Like, honestly, this is like the biggest patch I've seen yet. They just put out 5 new heroes and a new map, and then they kind of reworked some of their old maps, and they also patched some of the heroes and added some new specs and all that. But if you haven't been watching Overwatch recently, like, I think it's worth going back to it. If you haven't seen, I just recently did this whole video about why Overwatch 2 sucked and how Blizzard just kind of let everybody down when they came out with the game. And then right after I put out this video, like a month later, they come out with this update and everything I said was now completely wrong. So, you know, I think I gotta give credit where credit is due. I think Blizzard did a fantastic job with this update, and I'm gonna admit it, this game's pretty damn fun. So if you're interested in coming back to Overwatch 2, here's all 5 of the new characters, including, yes, Jetpack Cat. So the first DPS we have is Onron, who is a DPS flanker. They set their enemies on fire, and you could fan the flames for some bonus damage. She's basically like a Fire Nation baddie, okay? We just gotta admit it. So she has 2 fan blades that shoot out a 2-shot volley of fireballs, and then this builds ignition, and then once ignited, this does damage over time. And then if you right click, it will do this fan the blade ability, which amplifies the effect. Now moving down to the abilities, this is where things get fun. You have Infernal Rush, and essentially this is like a dash ability, but the cool thing about this is you could dash in any direction, up, down, side to side, like you could just go anywhere you're looking, you'll go there, and it gets pretty fun because you could get pretty vertical with it. Also too, the dash does damage and builds blaze damage. Next we have Dancing Blaze. This is her E ability. This strikes all enemies all around her in a short distance, and then it also adds some fire damage, and she appears back in the same spot. And this is great for avoiding some big damage from like, you know, like a Diva ult or something like that. And then lastly, her ult is Vermilion Ascent, and this is probably one of the coolest ults. She charges up in the air and explodes on impact, igniting all the enemies in the area, doing huge damage, and also that moveset is just so damn fun. But this is kind of a little bit different change in the Overwatch world. She actually has a ability to resurrect. If her ult is unused, she could use Vermilion Revival, which lets her revive on the spot, doing damage where she died. This is probably my favorite character right now. I kind of suck at it, but it's kind of like, it feels very Genji-esque, but with more mobility, if that's even possible. All right, next up we have Domina. She is a stalwart tank with a beam sniper. Her gun is called Photo Magnum, and it charges up shooting a laser, doing 60 damage before shooting a medium range hit scan shot, doing 60 damage. This kind of feels like Symmetra if she was a tank form with an added sniper rifle. Although the beam like shot of the rifle doesn't go very far, but it's still kind of a cool thing. Now let's move on to her abilities. Her right click is a barrier array. Kind of think about this like a Reinhardt shield that appears in front of her, but has 27 individual segments, and each one of those segments has 250 health. And if the enemy team blows a hole in one of those segments, it leaves, you know, a hole there for them to shoot through. I think this is kind of a cool adaptation of what shields could be in Overwatch 2. So I kind of like how they're kind of reworking some of those abilities. Her shift ability is called Sonic Repulsor. This pushes enemies back, and if they boink off against a wall, they get stunned for half a second. And it also does 80 damage. And I think this is very useful in this current meta. You're going to be seeing, you know, a lot of heavy dive comps. So I think this is kind of good to kind of create some pressure and position awareness for those type of players. Her E ability is called Crystal Charge. This shoots a detonatable grenade, and it does damage over time and additional damage when detonated. Lastly, her ult is called Panopticon, which it covers a character in a shield that blocks them from doing anything, and then they explode. This ult is pretty hard to land. If you don't land it, you're not getting anything from it. But when it does land, it is pretty effective. Since this ult is kind of mid-tier in my opinion, just because it's 1, hard to land, and 2, the other players on the opposite team can break the shield, I don't know, it's okay, but I think the other parts of her toolkit really make this character worth it in my opinion. But anyways, let's move on to the DPS. We got Emery. He is equipped with a 3-round burst rifle that can be aimed with the right click. Moving on to his abilities, he has a Siphon Blaster, which is a pistol with life-stealing explosive rounds, dealing 25 damage a hit and stealing 80% of the damage as health. Also too, when you pop out the pistol, you get 35% increased movement speed and your jump height is also increased significantly. Next up, you have his E ability called Cyber Frag. This is a grenade that detonates after bouncing, and it deals 110 to 55 damage, just depending on where you are around the grenade. And lastly, his ult is Override Protocol. He transforms into a giant weapon and deals insane damage. Kind of feels like what I would expect the dinosaurs to feel like when that asteroid hit. But anyways, on to the next hero. We're gonna go to the heals category. We have Mizuki. This is an interesting hero in my opinion. He has a passive heal aura that scales with damage done and healing done. He's essentially like a Lucio, but his powers get better the more you f up or heal. His weapon is called Spirit Glaive, which hits honestly like a truck. It does 30 damage just off the bat and then an additional 30 damage over time. And fun fact, it bounces off the environment, so even if you miss, I guess there's still a chance that it bounces off something and hits somebody. But it does fall off after 30 meters and then it disappears. But anyways, I think that's kind of a cool aspect of his weapon. His left click is his main heal ability called Healing Kasa. He throws his hat off and it bounces to 3 allies within 12 meters of the initial target. Heals for 90 damage for the first bounce, and then 70, and then 50, decreasing, and if it hits you, it gets 30. And again, it bounces off 3 heroes total. His shift ability is called Kashiro Return, where Mizuki dashes forward, leaving behind a paper doll that can be reactivated, and you can return to it within a 4.5 second return. And then during this time, you do have increased speed, so that's kind of cool. Also, you get a little bit of an invulnerability thing for like 0.25 seconds after you hit it, so it's kind of neat. Moving on to his other abilities, his E ability is called Binding Chain, and this might be probably one of the most powerful abilities right now. He launches a chain 20 meters out, and it does 50 damage, and after it damages them, they are tethered to the floor for like a second and a half or something like that. This is super punishing to anyone diving, or really just anyone in general that needs to be focused on. And then lastly, we have his ultimate, which is called Kakai Sanctuary, which creates a huge shield that absorbs all projectiles in a circle, and then it also heals allies within it for 6 seconds. It's a pretty powerful ultimate right now. And now to end it all, we have the most cancerous hero ever brought to Overwatch, Jetpack Cat. Which I gotta be honest, this is probably the most fun character to play right now. And even if you're getting absolutely destroyed by Jetpack Cat, you are probably laughing the whole time. So technically they fall into the Tactician sub-role, and they can carry friendly and enemy heroes alike, creating some pretty funny moments. Jetpack Cat is equipped with a Biotic Projectiles. That's actually the name. They heal and they also damage. Your right click is a booster that gets you zipping around the map hella fast, but it does use more fuel if you're tethering somebody. But anyways, moving on to the abilities, you have Lifeline, which essentially, if you want to picture it this way, you have 2 modes. You have transport mode and a regular mode where you could shoot and stuff. During transport mode, you cannot shoot, but you can tow allies around and they could shoot for you. Next ability, you have your E, which is called Purr, which basically turns you into a flying Lucio. And also your hitbox is so small, like I don't think you realize, but like this guy's hard to hit. And then you have the funniest ability of them all, which is your ultimate called Catnapper. Literally Catnapper, where you bash into the ground and you can pick up an enemy player and then do whatever you want with them. You can pick them up, throw them off a cliff, which is kind of the go-to right now, or you could, snag a healer and throw them in the backline to get chewed up. It's it's kind of funny. The possibilities are kind of endless with this hero. I think one thing that Overwatch did really well this patch is they kind of increased the dimension a bit. I think a lot of the older characters, it felt very much like it was 2D, like you chip away at each other's tanks, maybe pick off a healer, and then, you work your way in deeper, and then, it's basically like, it kind of felt like a World War II game where you're just like in a bunker trying to like chip away at each other's tanks. Now, I feel like a whole other dimension has been added, especially now with Jetpack Cat. Like the sky is now something that you gotta look out for. So I've noticed in fights more, I'm like zipping around all over trying to like find somebody, trying to hit somebody. And I think that added dimension just opens up a whole new world of how you could play the game. In this patch also, they added subclasses, which further specifies what each role does. And I think it's a good way to have players kind of, 1, identify with what they're gonna be doing, and 2, there's also perks that assign with each role that can kind of help control different situations. But anyways, I was not expecting this patch, and all these characters are free to play. The game's free to play, and they changed a lot to it, so yeah, go check it out. All right, peace.
Cool.
Being here reminds me. I should start looking into certificate programs.